The following is intended for mature audiences only. Discretion is advised.
This episode of Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes is brought to you by Ugly Drinks. Ugly is a company that makes sparkling water with real fruit flavor. No sugar, no sweetener, nothing artificial. And with every purchase, a percentage goes to the Girl Up campaign. Ugly Drinks comes in delicious flavors like peach, lemon lime, cherry, and my personal favorite, watermelon. And guess what, Childlike at Best listeners? You can receive 10% off your first order by using the code UGLYMIKE at checkout. It's true. Usually calling me ugly would be offensive in real life, but at uglydrinks.com, it'll save you money. Visit uglydrinks.com and use the code UGLYMIKE to get 10% off your order. It's time to get real. It's time to get ugly. What's up, besties? This is episode 36 Mafia of Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes, and I am still the second part of that title. Miami, I am going to be doing stand-up comedy on March 12th at Mr. Wright's Gold Diggers Saloon. That's going to be a really fun show. It's a free show. And also, I will be at the Unseen Creatures comedy show at Unseen Creatures Brewery on March 19th. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get this started. Today's episode is Oriel Rodriguez. Oriel is a very funny stand-up comedian, and we had such a great talk about comedy and growing up. I really think you guys are going to love this episode. So without further ado, please enjoy Oriel Rodriguez. We'll go ahead and get started. Hey everybody, this is Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes. Hey guys, guess what? I'm Mike Valdes. And today I have an amazing guest with me, the very funny, the very talented Oriel Rodriguez.
Hey Mike.
How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing great. Wonderful.
Good, man. Well, hey, before we get started, before I ask you the first question, the first thing we like to do here at Childlike at Best is we like to take a Flintstones vitamin. So,
Oh my God, I've needed these for 12 years. Oh, and they're gummies too.
Yes, they are.
Nah, this isn't the OG shit.
Do you remember the chalk ones?
Oh, are you kidding me, dude? I used to snort those pretty much.
Did you? That's amazing. As you're taking that in, as we're both taking this in, can you please let the audience know where you grew up?
I grew up where I live now. There's a thing about Cubans where they kind of land in Miami and they're like, de aquí no me muevo. From here, I never move.
Creatures of habit. Absolutely.
Yeah, creatures of habit. So like they came here in like 86. I wasn't born until like 93, but they moved into Westchester, which is kind of West Miami. It's like a middle-class Cuban neighborhood, nice neighborhood. Now it's basically full. There's nothing there to rent. It's getting really expensive, but they got in pretty early, bought a house, and then, it was just growing up there in a middle-class neighborhood with a poor family. It was kind of weird.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And so what kind of kid would you say that you were growing up? Like, what kind of... Like, who did you sit with at the lunch table, that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. I was very attention-seeking, and I was just a douche. I mean,
okay.
if I saw myself back then, I'd just be like, God, dude, get out of it. That's why I've been going through this, like, aggressive grow-up phase, which I don't even, But, yeah, I was a little rambunctious. I would speak out in class all the time. I was just trying to get laughs. I was just trying to be, like, silly.
Yeah.
And, it was really weird.
Yeah. Did you, by any chance, do anything, like... drama or like any of those like enrichment things?
So, like it kind of, I had two phases in my life.
Yeah.
And there's one moment that really changed me, and I don't think it was for the better. In elementary school, I was this talkative, energetic kid. They wanted to put me in the gifted program. Remember the gifted program?
Yeah.
Which God bless, because you didn't have to do shit in the gifted program. You just, you get in there and you're like, I made it. I graduated. I don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
No homework, And, but before that, like they didn't want to put me in because I was so annoying. I would literally just always be talking, repeating stuff I heard on TV. I didn't really have a filter, and I would get smacked a lot because of it, by my mom or whatever.
Yeah.
And but I was really involved in clubs. I was in the morning announcements. I was the sound guy.
Okay.
I was in choir, the singing club. I was in music club. I was in art club. I loved art.
Okay.
I paint all the time. And I was involved in like a little track P kind of event that they would do in my school. I had a really good elementary school.
Yeah.
And they had all kinds of events for engagement. So I was super busy all the time, which helped because my mom was always working so late that I would have to stay the whole day.
Right.
So that was me. And I was like, man, I'm going to be president. This is awesome. I'm involved in every club. This is dope. But I didn't like homework. I hated homework. And I hated reading logs. You remember the reading logs?
Of course I do.
What I would do is what I would do is I would just write the same books every week, and I'd be like, I'm not done. I'm still reading it. I would write the same books, and I would do this for like the whole year.
That's so
And
funny.
I had, eventually in 5th grade, I had a teacher that just like didn't like me because I was annoying.
Yeah.
And she got mad at me. She started getting on me about the reading logs. She's like, yeah, if you don't get on the reading logs, you're going to pay for it. And I was like, whatever. So then one week I wrote the same exact books again, and I wrote the same bio again, and I just signed it again. I'm like, I don't care. And she said, that's it. And then she took me by my hand. She had a sub fill in the class while she took me to each of the clubs that I was a part of and said, he's not in the club anymore.
Oh, no.
She kicked me out of everything. And then, like, as she's doing it, I'm like, I don't give a fuck about school anymore. Thank you. You've ruined me. So then since then, after that, I didn't get involved in any clubs. Middle school, high school, never cared. I really didn't like
that moment
club.
scarred you.
Yeah. I don't know if it scarred me. I just got really pissed off at it.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to prove to you that this was a bad move, lady.
Right.
And I think it got a little self-destructive. But I always liked people that were in clubs. I always knew people in clubs, but I never joined because I wanted to get home as soon as possible.
Sure.
And once I could start walking home from school and I didn't have to wait for mom to pick me up, I was just, I'm out.
Yeah.
So
speaking of wanting to be home as soon as possible, what are your earliest like fandoms that you remember? So like, what are the things that started inspiring you when you were growing up?
Oh, just things that I was like really into.
Yeah.
I liked like little video games. My brother had a little computer set up that he gave me, little CRT screen, like a Pentium, whatever, 2 clocks per second, like a really slow computer. But I would play like a little Galaga clone on it or whatever, which was dope. And basically, we didn't have cable, but I loved movies that we would have, and we would always have obscure old movies on VHS, like some what? Cuban movies, comedies. Okay. My mom always was into comedy, but it was always like the Hispanic Cuban comedies and stuff. So I would watch those kinds of movies over and over again because it's all we had. And then when I wasn't involved in, when I wasn't watching that, I was watching like basic cable, public access, whatever. And I was just on PBS the whole time. So I really got into like Zoom.
Yes.
Zaboomafoo. You remember that shit?
Yes, I do.
I loved it. And
like you could speak ubby-dubby and stuff?
Yeah. And that's, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's like during my phase of I'm in every club. I like learning.
Yes.
I like this. I'm interested in everything. And yeah, I got really into that. And my brother, he was really into, my brother's always older. I grew up with a much older brother. When I was born, he was 17 already.
Oh, wow.
So I got to basically just see, like as a young kid, see him bring home girlfriends. But he was a kind of a dorky guy too. He had hobbies. And he was into like modeling, making model airplanes, model helicopters. So I just got into that with him. Okay. And so I just got really into that whole like sit down and make something and, work with your hands, decorate, fly the thing.
Okay.
Whatever. So I got into that stuff. But as far as movies, I never had a bunch of access to it, right? As a young kid. Music, I liked just the typical Linkin Park, Nickelback combo that everyone's embarrassed of now. That dreaded LimeWire folder where you're like, I'd never want to look back there again.
With all your Will Smith albums on there, and that one Stain song because you saw it in The Punisher. Yeah. Like, now that we're here.
So forward.
That's so good.
So yeah, it was basically that. And my brother had some pretty interesting taste. He was into Bjork a lot and horror movies. Okay. So as a kid, I would just try to barge into his room all the time when he's hanging out with his friends, and I was just like an annoying little kid. Yeah. I would run in and they're watching a horror movie and there's Bjork playing, super industrial gothy shit, and I was like, this is weird. This is interesting. And it kind of rubbed off on me, and I was like,
Bjork is a very interesting style.
My brother had a huge crush on her.
Oh, yeah.
Now she's out of her mind, but it's in the best possible way. You're like, what time signature is this? Is this even a song? Yeah. Like, she's talking slowly, but he was always super into that. And
that's such a funny way of describing Bjork. Is this even a song? Yeah. Like, it's so accurate.
I feel like she would just talk like that. You'd be like, hi, Bjork, how you doing? Well, I'm doing fine. How about you?
Exactly.
But some of that stuff was so crazy. Those old music videos when she was driving I forgot what song it was, man, but she was cute. Little Icelandic goth chick. And she's driving that giant evil truck. Mm-hmm. God. I would hang out with my brother and just have nightmares. That's basically my whole childhood.
I remember at one specific point, she was at an award ceremony, I think for MTV, and she was wearing a swan. That was like the first time where I was like...
Like a dead animal?
Yeah. Like just a giant swan. And that's it. That was her dress, was the swan. And I was like, who is this?
Yeah, dude. Icelandic lady. You
Yes.
don't understand a thing she says if she's.
That's so great, man.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And he was into Prodigy and all this other stuff, so I got into that early on. But it was always this kind of like alternative.
Are you still an
industrial
alternative rock fan?
Well, now I like metal. I was.
Okay.
My brother was always into metal too, so I would listen to a bunch of that stuff, and I like that kind of stuff. I like alternative, weird things.
Yeah.
Pop. I kind of suck because sometimes when I'm around with friends, they're like, what do you listen to? I'm like, I don't know. I like what I like.
I don't know.
I have these little playlists that I've built up, and I like what's on it. And some people
Yeah.
go like, hey, Arctic Monkeys, like, I don't know shit.
Yeah.
I'm kind of clueless.
When it comes, just out of curiosity, just because I'm a huge music fan and everything, but like, what kind of bands are you into now? Like metal bands?
Well, you see, here's the thing. It's basically the same shit that I was into when I was like 14 or 15. Sure. I read this thing that like, your music tastes kind of lock in at some point. You kind of just keep copying that
That
kid.
is very true. Yeah.
So I got locked in, and in high school, I just started listening to like old Metallica and Megadeth and Slayer and all this kind of stuff. I was like, this is awesome.
Right.
And you remember dubstep?
Yes,
How
I
it
do.
had like a whole phase?
Yeah.
I was totally into that. I was like,
Okay.
oh, this is interesting. And it was mostly interesting because I wanted to learn how to make it. So I was on my
Sure.
computer making little beats and stuff. And and I showed it to a bunch of my friends. And then once they all started liking it, I was like, this music sucks. I hate this.
Yeah.
I got really over it. It got old very quickly for me. But
That is funny. Is dubstep still as popular as it was?
it got, the thing is, I think it got sucked up into pop music and it got like stripped down, but it's still there. The elements are still there, like the halftime rhythms and the kind of little
of course.
bassing. It's there in a lot of pop music, but you're not going to recognize it as dubstep. Nobody makes dubstep anymore.
Yeah. Like, other than those Transformers movies, right? Like, that's pretty much the only, like,
Those guys
iron
got careers
clanking
in sound
sounds and,
yeah.
and blah, and, like, stuff like that you're going to hear.
They all got careers like making the sound effects for the movies now.
Right. Exactly.
And it got too stupid. It was like, man, So that was a lot of that.
Yeah.
I was into like little trends like that. But then,
Ironically, I thought, I thought one of the better guys that was in the dubstep community was Skrillex. I really liked him.
he was
a
the
lot.
guy. I hated him.
Right. Did you?
I didn't like him.
I think, you know what?
I was
Is it
such a
because he was so popular?
No, yeah, I was such a douche. I was even hipster about my own little dubstep taste. I was
That's
like,
so
nah,
funny.
dude, you gotta listen to these Dutch guys or whatever. It was,
That's great.
yeah.
Oh
So
my God.
Once my friends were like, hey man, you gotta listen to Skrillex, I was like, I'm out. I checked out. I was like, I'm not having this.
I also was kind of into it just because, I grew up in the MySpace emo era, and his first band was From First to Last. And I was like, oh man, the guy from First to Last is now like
Big shot.
this huge pop star.
Yeah.
But it's like kind of ironic that he's only famous for not singing, like not doing any of the things that he was doing in the other
Sampling
band.
and helping kids overdose on.
Yes. Exactly.
I facilitate a party vibe. Yeah,
Did you ever go to those festivals?
Never. Hated it.
Okay.
Hated the idea of it. Ultra to
This
me,
I
like,
can definitely agree with you on.
yeah, it just scared me. I was like, all my friends did.
Yeah.
And they all came back with some awful story about how they dropped acid. And it's 20 hours. They lost their friend. They had to go find them. I was like, I'm so glad I didn't go there,
The thing is, to me, it doesn't sound entertaining to watch a guy like. I don't know if he's actually doing
it's not
anything.
a performance, right?
I don't know if he's
don't
actually.
get me wrong. I would go, like, acts that I liked, I would follow them around if they were on tour in Florida, but I would never go to a festival like that.
Right.
I went to one festival once, only because it had a lot of different acts that I was into.
Okay.
And that kind of gave me a taste of what goes on at those places, because I saw, people selling water for like $7, but someone over there shaking.
Oh,
'cause
dude,
they're
it's the worst. Which
getting
festival
rolled out
was
on a
this?
stretcher. They had one in Bayfront Park that wasn't Ultra, but it was called IDF.
Oh, I know IDF. Yeah.
So I went to IDF once because they had a bunch of cool drum and bass acts that I was into and stuff, and I went. It was super fun. But at the same time, I was like, yeah, if this was any bigger or more packed with douchebags, I really would not be able to handle it.
Oh yeah.
So
That's like Ultra and all those like.
I can't do Ultra. I can't do Rolling Loud. I'm not cool. I can't do.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't think any of those people are cool either.
Oh no, you're wrong. They're super cool. Are you kidding me? The definition of Miami cool. Stop it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's I don't know. I've never been into that for some reason.
Yeah, just claustrophobic. Too many people, and then you're just
That's
like,
so
what are we
true.
jamming at? I'd rather
Yes.
sit down and appreciate what's going on.
Right. That's so true.
Yeah.
Okay, so I kind of want to go into the next bit. When it comes to like snacks and stuff that you remember growing up, like what were your go-to things? Remember this?
Yeah. This is a part of my life that I'm still struggling with. I haven't outgrown my 8-year-old.
Bro, can I please tell you, like, the day that I realized you could buy Dunkaroos on Amazon again was the day I realized God was real.
And his name ends in Bezos.
Yes.
Oh, did I snack? Oh my God, that was the whole day. But it was never like brand name awesome snacks. It was always some weird shit that I would have that would just be delicious. Like, here's something my mom used to make, and she still does it every now and then. And if I ever open her fridge and I see it in there, it's bad news. Because she'll take, condensed milk.
Yeah.
She'll take a can of condensed milk, take the label out from the outside, not even open it, just put it in a boiling pot, like a double boiler. And if you leave it there for like 30 minutes, the sugar inside caramelizes, and you get just the richest, sweetest caramel you've ever had in your life.
Oh my gosh.
I have a disgusting sweet tooth. I have a real problem with sweets. So
yes.
So that was my thing. I would literally just like sneak in all embarrassed because it was like doing drugs. I would open the thing up and just start eating it, and I would have to hide it, and I'd have to like... I would eat the entire thing, which is like a diabetic risk.
Dude.
And then I would be like, if she finds out, she's going to kill me. So I would take another can of regular condensed milk and take the label off and just kind of leave it in the fridge because I didn't know how to set up the boiler. I was too stupid. But I'd just kind of leave it in there, hoping that she wouldn't notice.
She's like, how did the caramel
in 10 seconds,
turn
you'd
back
be like,
into milk?
In 5 seconds, you'd be like, you ate the whole can? I'm like, no, it's right there. She'd be like, smack me. And I'd be like, sorry.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Oh my
I would
gosh.
get creative. I would try to mix like juices together.
Yeah.
I would watch a lot of cooking shows, but I was clueless. I was an idiot, so...
I don't know if you ever went to camp as a kid, but everyone's done like the suicide drink. Have you done that before?
The suicide drink?
It's when you get every single soda in one cup. Have you done that?
Well, it's like a Long Island iced tea. No, I would do that, but with Tampico and like mango nectars, and just make a fluid that was so thick. It's like,
dude,
you ever seen those non-Newtonian fluids? Like if you slap it, it has surface tension and it just smacks you back.
You should be so thankful that you don't have some sort of diabetes.
Oh my God,
it's crazy.
It. Well, I was pretty active too, but like,
my
God,
that's crazy.
I was so into it.
I love that.
Yeah, and then the rest of it was I would just be eating cookies or like snacks. You remember the little blue tin cookies?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything has a little pouch, that little flowery little doily that holds the cookies.
Yeah,
just smack that into my mouth. I don't care.
You also remember the worst day of your life when you would open the tin and all of your grandmother's stuff to sew was in there.
Yeah. I don't get it why it's so universal. It's like,
it's so true.
That's exactly it. You know?
Opening that can and eating those cookies is the best.
Yeah, but then
but it's the worst feeling knowing that there's no cookies in there.
Yeah, but if it's like green thread and God. Sewing needles, you're like, fine, I can poke my fucking eyes out now. I'm so depressed.
Right. So what about cereal? Were you a cereal fan?
Huge cereal fan.
Okay. What were your favorites?
The kind of cereals that on the front it said, malted balls puffed with peanut butter flavor. Those kinds of things. Not the brand.
Right.
Fruit flavored Loop cereal brand.
Okay. So like bag cereals.
Bag cereals. Things that you can get like a dump truck full for like $7. Like,
right.
Yeah. I actually liked Raisin Bran. I was a fan of Raisin Bran, and I didn't like it because of the raisins. I would pick the raisins out and just eat the bran. I like bran flakes.
That's interesting.
That was weird. I was more like a volume guy, so I didn't even want something that was super intense in flavor. I just wanted to stuff my face and keep eating.
Oh my goodness!
I was such a monster. So like, yeah.
Well, every single episode we like to review a cereal on this podcast.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is overrated. I'll say that.
I definitely agree with you.
Overrated. I was addicted to it as a kid, but then I was like, this isn't even good.
Yeah, look, man. It's very 0 to 60, and there to me. And there's also like it's the LSD of cereal. Like, can we just agree on that?
Yeah, bad tripped on Frosted. Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, and you know this because you've seen me, but like, I mean, I think about this a lot because like I have a bit on cereal. Yeah. And it really is like a drug. And for some reason, I feel like, because I wasn't allowed a lot of this stuff growing up. But I feel like when you're in college and you're like, I could get whatever I want.
The gates are loose.
Yeah, I can get Cinnamon Toast Crunch and I can get Fruit Gushers, and then you eat the box in one sitting.
Fruit Gusher.
And then you're just like, oh, that's why I'm not supposed to eat this. I feel awful.
Yeah.
Like,
literally, some of the worst stomach pain in my life is because of Cookie Crisp and.
Cookie Cookie Crisp.
Shit that you would get, but it's like, oh god, I hate Cookie Crisp. And then I matured a little bit, started getting into the the honey bunches,
Yes,
those kinds of stuff, decent. But then I would go to my friend's house, my friend Mike, and he was a hardcore Honey Smacks guy.
Okay.
That was like his smack. Literally, he was into Honey Smack. And that stuff was like, you didn't even need milk. You would just be reaching in, and it was so sticky, it would just come out, and you'd be. It was like eating popcorn, like the worst kind of eating food.
That's so accurate. Absolutely.
Which is a mark of a good cereal. It's a good cereal if you can enjoy it without milk.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So I have a specific cereal that I want to review with you. Usually I like to get a cereal that has something to do with my guest in some way, shape, or form. So
you have like black bean and rice cereal today?
We already did that. No, I'm kidding. Arroz con frijoles os.
Frijoleo.
Yeah.
Frijolos.
Yeah, we did picadillos. We did all of them. So, no, I spoke with my sponsors over at Post. Now, by
No way.
Well, look, dude, by sponsor, I mean that I like them and I buy all their products.
Okay.
And by spoke to, I mean I tweeted them repeatedly and they didn't get back to me. So, right. So the cereal that I chose for you, let me grab this right here.
Okay.
Is Oreo O's. Yeah.
Had them once before.
Yeah?
Been a while. Pretty good cereal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is a really interesting cereal for me because
it shouldn't exist.
Yes, that is very true. Don't they know that I can just put Oreos in milk?
Yeah, yeah. I do appreciate
them
them trying to make it easier for you. But,
absolutely. One of the reasons also why I find this really strange is because one of the bits that we like to do on this podcast is we like to review this cereal as the character on the box. And this cereal is completely...
No personality.
No personality
because they don't
whatsoever.
need it. Oreos are just... Everybody knows Oreos.
Yeah,
it's
Oreos
like gasoline and
are
chocolate.
your personality.
You know Oreos.
Yeah.
What I resent about this cereal is that they didn't just call it Oreos.
Yes.
They didn't like go for a dash. They called it Oreo-O's. No one's going to ask for that. Mom, Oreo-O's.
Yes.
It's ridiculous,
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I am going to pour some of this cereal into my Reptar cereal bowl. I'm going to try to mic it so that way all the ASMR weirdos can loop it and make it their ringtone or whatever the weird thing it is that they do. Yes, you're already getting it. Yep, yes. That's how we do it.
Little Crispies.
Little Crispies.
Oh, fuck yeah. Oh, fuck.
That was a good one. Man, I could smell it from here. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's very intense.
That is crazy. Okay, so I thought of something for you because, of course, it would be fun to just review this cereal.
Oh, can I do one thing, though?
Yeah.
Just looking at it in the bowl now?
Yeah.
It looks disgusting.
Does it?
It doesn't. Look at it.
It looks...
It looks like some kind of asphalt got repurposed.
Now that you've said something... Because, at first I was like, oh, it just looks like Oreos.
No,
like
it doesn't. It looks like they paved children's playgrounds with it so that they don't get hurt when they fall off the monkey bars.
Now that you're saying this, I completely see it, and
this
I understand.
Is a disgusting cereal. I'm sure in the milk it kind of gets a little bit more attractive, but right now it doesn't even look like an Oreo. It just looks a little... It looks sick. It looks like a Cheerio got Ebola or something.
Or a Fruit Loops that got sick.
Yeah, a Fruit Loop got elephantitis, and that's all discombobulated and delicious.
So I thought of something.
I am not a cookie.
I thought of something specific for this review that I thought would be interesting for you.
Okay.
Obviously, you're an amazing stand-up comedian.
Oh, please.
And we'll talk about this more after the review, but I think you're really great. And I think that it would be more fun for us to review this, but I would like for you to give me some sort of an impromptu bit about the cereal. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find some comedy club ambiance here.
Okay. Perfect.
And then whenever you're ready, we can start reviewing this. Give us a bit like, hey, have you had these Oreos or whatever it is?
Okay.
Here we go.
Perfect.
Whenever you're ready, man.
Well, my name's Oriel. My first joke ever in kindergarten was, people said, what's my nickname? I said, Oreo. And I've been regretting that decision for these last 25 years of my life because every time someone sees me, they go, oh, your name's Oreo. And I really pay for it at work. Sometimes we do like Secret Santas. And one time, a coworker gave me a box of cereal, which I really appreciate the sentiment. You think I'm a fat fuck. Right? Don't have time in the morning to have a proper meal. She looked at me and said, like, he's a mama's boy. He can't crack an egg. So she gave me a box of cereal, and she said, this is perfect. This is your type of cereal, Oriel. And I open it, and of course, it's not a good cereal. It's Oreo O's. A cereal that they could have stopped naming right after the beginning. And they said, oh, well, here, have some Oreo O's. And I said, oh, that's great. I'm going to get you a cereal next time called Bitch Crunch.
That's so good.
Marmy Flakes.
Oh, my gosh.
Thank you all. I've been Oriel. Tip your bartender. Don't eat this fucking cereal.
Oh, man, that's great. Yeah. Oreo O's, ladies and gentlemen.
O's.
Oh, my goodness.
Be here all week.
I'll be here all week. This episode of Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes is brought to you by the Crunch Cup. Save time in the morning by taking your cereal on the go. Simply add cereal to the inner cup, milk into the outer cup, screw on the lid, and you're ready to crunch. Eat cereal in the car, at your desk, or anywhere else you want. Go to thecrunchcup.com to purchase what I think is a genius invention and use the discount code MikeValdes10. That's Mike, M-I-K-E, Valdes, V-A-L-D-E-S, the number 10, to save 10% off of your order. You can also sign up for their monthly giveaway to win a year's supply of cereal. So what are you waiting for? Go to thecrunchcup.com and use promo code MikeValdes10 to save 10% off of your order. The Crunch Cup, it's better than spooning. You know what I love about this music that I chose here is
it's cocktail dinner.
It actually accurately paves what a comedy club is like, because I feel like when I'm on stage, all I can hear is glass clanking and you go up in classy joints. People being like, chicken tenders, please. And I'm just like trying to get through a bit about Full House. Like, get out of here, dude.
Different vibes, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, if you had to ask me like what would represent my rooms that I go up in sometimes in audio clip, it would just kind of be like a episode of Cops or something, you know, like take him out of there. I don't want his baby. I don't want it.
Oh my gosh.
Keep the whiskey though.
I want to move on into.
It is delicious though.
Is it?
It's pretty good.
Good. I'm glad.
Good crunch factor.
I'm glad.
I feel like if you leave this in milk, that's another thing, man. Do you let your cereal get soggy or do you eat it right away, crunchy mode?
Okay, so I am more of a fan of cereal without milk. However, I do like specific kinds of cereal with milk. Like, for example, I like Raisin Bran with milk.
That's what I'm saying, man. You let that bran get nice and soft and mushy.
Exactly, it's super delicious like that. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a few other cereals that I would think maybe something like that would be something good.
It's a little intense.
It would definitely looks like it could be. Another thing that I was looking at online, they have mega stuffed Oreo O's. Like, who wants these cereals?
They just went straight to mega.
Yeah. Like, we can just give you regular Oreos or the most icing.
Yeah, you know, there's a business meeting and there was two people and they're just trying to outdo each other. Mega! The word cloud software I'm using says mega's in right now. Let's make mega stuffed.
Could you imagine, man? Like, they're just like, well, we did double stuffed. What do we do now? How about all of the stuff? They're like, what do you mean? I don't know. Put everything in there. Like, my gosh, man. Like, anything you have to put in a cookie, let's put it in there.
Yeah, let's turn the milk into cement by the time it's set. let's have a set time on the cereal.
Exactly.
That you could like plaster a wall with it if you really need to.
Exactly.
It's kind of the same business model that KFC has now.
Is it?
KFC made the double down sandwich, which was an inside out sandwich with chicken breasts as the buns. And now they're making a sandwich with donuts as the buns. It's a donut chicken sandwich.
Oh my gosh.
And they're just doing it for the meme. I get it, but it's for a limited time only. You gotta get on that.
It's tough for me. I mean, and you know, it is kind of in the comedy realm, so we can start moving into that. But one of the reasons why it's difficult for me to eat KFC, other than the fact that it like will immortalize my body, is that it's hard for me to not see the Patton Oswalt bit anymore. Have you heard this bit about
on KFC?
Yeah, about the famous bowls.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just like,
put all of it in there.
Yeah, put all of it in there. Yeah, give me a bowl of depression, like in one bowl. And if it could play The Cure while I'm eating it, that would be amazing. In fact, if you have a caulking gun, you can just put it into my veins. But until you invent the lunch gun, that's completely fine. Just put it all in a bowl.
That's like the sweatpants of fast food.
It really
relates to a sweatpants bit as well.
Yes, that is so accurate.
It's all standards have gone out the window. I don't care anymore. I don't care that I'm in public doing this right
Yes.
now. Just feed my hole.
Exactly. That's so great.
The Famous Bowl is one of the best things I've ever had.
Is it?
I love the Famous Bowl.
I've never even had it once.
Big fan.
Really?
Oh, if you're a fan of just shoveling shit into your mouth and not even caring.
Oh my gosh.
It's a whole meal. It's a complete meal.
Yes, that is very true. It gives you all of the sides and
It gives you all of the food groups except, the ones you need to live.
It gives you all the food groups.
Potato, chicken, corn. That's vegetables.
Yeah.
That's chicken. And that's carbs. You're
Yeah,
good. You're good.
Exactly. Really, all the body really needs is starch. So, so you're a comedian, and we already spoke about it. I think you're super talented. It's something, dude. This is something I tell you every single time, and I don't know if you believe me when I tell you this,
nice, yeah.
but every time I see you, you get better.
Thank you, man.
It's.
Thank you.
Every single time that I see you, you get better. And sometimes these are bits that I've heard many times because we go in the same rooms and things like that. But I'm just like, man, he's honed this thing and he's making it so much better. I really love what you do. And
thank you, man.
But I kind of want to start asking, like, when did you start, and like what was the inspiration to get started?
Always wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Once going back to the childhood thing, once we did get cable, I messed around with Cartoon Network a little bit. I was into the cartoons, but then basically I just locked it on Comedy Central Presents because they just had it on all day back then. They would just put it. I would watch in a day. I could watch six different half hours.
Yes.
I was just mindless, and my parents would leave me alone because they didn't know what was even going on. They're like, "I saw algo americano."
What were some of your favorite specials?
Oh my God! Well, growing up, I was into pretty ones that now I'd be like, well, they were good, but whatever. I was into the Dane Cook special. I was into the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. I was into it back then,
man.
And then just a bunch of random little guys that I'm huge fans of. Like I saw Todd Barry's Comedy Central presents, not even knowing it was Todd Barry.
Right.
He's one of my favorite comedians of all time.
Yes.
And I would catch these guys, and just everybody.
It's so funny because I was thinking about this recently. I think the first gateway that a lot of our generation had to stand up was the Blue Collar guys.
Because it was such a huge tour. And
exactly.
It was so cool to see three guys. And you're like, man, it's like a club, But my first comedy thing that I really ever was like, oh, this is a thing. This guy's awesome. Was my brother had a LimeWire recording, or back in the Bjork days. One time I walk in and he's listening to Bring the Pain.
Okay.
Chris Rock.
Yes.
And it's just audio. I'm not watching it, but I'm just hearing it. And I'm hearing him talk, big, powerful voice, a lot of reverb. And I'm like, what is this? And then all of a sudden, the whole you hear the crowd. And you're like, this guy's in an arena or something. It's huge. And that noise just made me go like, that's crazy. I can't believe you do that, But even then I was like, no, that's not for me. I'm not that type of person. So I didn't instantly have that like, oh, I want to do that.
Right.
But I was always like, this is awesome. This is my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And then I slowly got more into comedy, started watching more of it. Then I guess in like high school, I had a couple friends telling me like, dude, you should do improv, you should do something. And I was like, well, I don't know. And that's when I started getting into comedians that were booming back then, like Louis C.K. and a few other guys. And I got really into, I've always loved Chappelle's show.
Yeah.
My best friend always loved Chappelle. We loved him. He actually got to see him live, which I envy super much. And whatever, I never decided to do it. And then one day in college, I was with this girl, and she was not a nice person. And I was like, hey, I think I'm doing a stand-up. She goes, really? And I go, yeah. And she's like, you have to be funny for that. And I was like,
oh, no.
And I was like, I'm working on some stuff. And I had like a joke book with like some of my first ever premises and ideas that I was working out. Absolute dog crap, not funny at all. And one day we have a fight, and it was kind of like an end of the relationship type of fight, but it was about nothing. It was just
the Seinfeld of relationship fights.
It was bad. Yeah, it was a very Costanza-esque kind of thing.
The problem is I love you too much. That's why we get beer with each other.
I can't date you. I can't date you because you're going to read my material. And you're going to ruin it. And but something happened where she was kind of petty and trying to get back at me, and I had left the room, and I come back and she's reading my joke book, and she just kind of looks up and goes, "This is terrible." And I go, "Fuck you!" And I grab it and I will storm out. And then a couple of days later we break up, and afterwards it's like I'm gonna fuck it, I'm gonna go up, and so then I started looking out for like open mics and stuff, and basically it was just kind of like I'm single now, I have time to myself, I don't have a lot of friends, let me just try to do something. So I just started, bit the bullet, started trying to go out, and that's when I started doing I guess Artistic Vibes was my first time.
Yeah.
Great room. I tried doing it at a couple other places, but it never worked out because they always had music acts take up, poets or whatever, and just got bumped. So I went to Artistic Vibes, I think, for my first time, and I was like, this is fun. Yeah. Even though I was bombing like crazy for like 6 months straight. But
they're super supportive people, and I think that when you're first starting, that's pretty important because it's never bad enough that it'll make you want to never do it again. Yeah. But it's also not good enough where you're just like, I am a god.
I kind of got into it knowing that it would be unrewarding and difficult and humiliating sometimes because I really got into the Opie and Anthony radio show. Okay. I was into it as a kid because my brother would put it on. He had recordings of it and stuff and little excerpts that he knew, but he wasn't even that into the show. And after that, I kind of got into the whole morning radio vibe. My brother would listen to Paul and Young Wrong in the mornings as he was dropping me off. And I was like, these guys are cool. Yeah. And I kind of got into radio a little bit. And then in college, I started just listening to all those clips. And you hear these comedians, these big-time New York comedians talking about how brutal it is. And I was like, this is great. They're self-hating. I'm self-hating. This is awesome. Right. I'm down to have this experience. I don't care. So I was never really scared of bombing, but I was just I would get sad.
Yeah. So speaking of Opie and Anthony, I'm assuming that's how you got into like Bill Burr and like Patrice and people like that, right?
Bill Burr I liked since before. Okay. Yeah, I did like Bill Burr since before. Patrice, I got to know him through the show, but I had seen some of his performances before. Okay. I saw his half hour before, and I was like, this guy's great, but I never really knew much about him. And then, through the show, I learned about all those guys, and I got kind of pretty inspired by them. Yeah, I found out a lot about comics, either the Comedy Central presents or through podcasts. So, there's a podcast that I listen to all the time, even still, called Doug Loves Movies with Doug Benson, and it's a movie trivia show, but the first thing that he likes to do is he wants it to be funny, and he always wants funny people, and that's how I started finding like comics that people didn't know about. Like, for example, now it's a name everyone knows, but like I didn't know who Kumail Nanjiani was in 2008. And then I listened to him and I'm like, man, this guy is so funny, and I found out about Aziz, anyone, that's how I found out about a lot of these people. And, going through that, they start talking on other podcasts about Opie and Anthony and how great they were and, all these things. And then the only way to really listen to Opie and Anthony anymore, sadly, is through YouTube clips right now. Yeah, but it's perfect.
Yes.
They have full episodes there,
Of course,
throw it on at work.
Yeah, yes. If you're at work and you need something to do, Opie and Anthony all the way. Absolutely. So you did this show, and then did you get the bug immediately to keep going?
Once I started, and it wasn't even those guys that made me want to keep doing it. It was watching people in Miami do it. Okay. I would see Artistic Vibes. They had a couple really funny guys come up. Sometimes you would have John Vargas show up or David Del Rosario. And those guys had such showmanship. I was like, oh, man, there's levels to this, So I'm always immediately attracted to something like that you can progress in and get better with time.
Of course.
So I just got nerdy into it. And I had no other interests at the time. I had just gotten out of... I just fallen out of love with dubstep music in high school. I was like, there's nothing there for me. And my little SoundCloud page is going to melt away. And I was like, well, what do I do? And I had always had, I would always just take notes and write little ideas down, whatever, just at home. Yeah. When I was going through school, taking notes on the side, I would just have little margins with ideas as I was listening to stuff. And then I just decided to incorporate that a little bit more. And now it's just kind of what I do.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And then from there, did you just find other mics were people coming up to you after shows like, "Hey, this is the next thing," or no?
Nobody told me shit. I was not funny. I had very long stories that went nowhere. Ask anybody. And so people were just like, "All right, another one." And I started seeking them out slowly, but I stayed at Artistic Vibes for probably my first 5 months, just doing it once a week. Once a week, I would go. Maybe once every 2 weeks I would go. I was kind of slow to branch out. Yeah. And then after that, there was some other little warehouse shows where it was 6 people and it was just comedians, and I got to meet, the guys are like Abe Perez. I got to meet Reginald there. Got to meet Jack. Made friends with all those guys over time. And then they started kind of telling me about other little shows, ones that Mary Smith would produce in the city. And once I started doing other ones, I was really excited and trying to discover new places because I'd never gone out. I'd never done anything. So this was kind of fun. I'm like, oh man, I'm on my own. It felt like a little adventure, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was basically it once I got my car. Let's do it.
Yeah. So you've done many shows since then. In fact, when was it that you started at Artistic Vibes?
I started October 1st, 2015.
Okay. You actually started a couple of months before I did. That's when I started.
Yeah.
Which
1st,
is
2015.
insane, yeah. And so obviously you've done so many different shows, different kinds of crowds, all that kind of stuff, especially here.
Let me tell you.
So that's exactly where I want to go. I wanted to see, what are your war stories or some funny moments that you remember?
I'll tell you the story about my hell gig. My hell of hell gigs.
Yes, I would love that.
Worst gig I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
I was maybe 2 years in, approaching 2 years in. I was like one point something, you know? And I had an Instagram account or whatever. And I get approached by this guy. This guy DMs me and he goes, hey, a friend of mine told me that you're a comedian. I'm an artist. We're having a benefit show at Lucid Gallery. Lucid Gallery, if you don't know, was maybe, I don't even know if it's open anymore. It's in Deep Kendall. It's like this little warehouse where every other place is like they sell tile, they sell granite. Right. But here it's just like a little artistic space. And you go in there, and I'd seen my friend play his band there. It's always just full of hipsters, little kids, 17, 18, smoking weed, and hanging out, listening to the show. And but this guy said, hey, I'm doing a benefit here. It'd be great to have you. It'd be great to have a comedian. And I go, great. Yeah, I'll stop by. And he goes, could you do 30 minutes? And I'm like, sure.
Oh, no. And in between bands?
Oh, well, I had no idea what it was in between, but I was like, who's going up? And he's like, well, it's a multimedia thing. We have some musicians and we have some, you'll be the comedian. And I go, oh, fine. So in my mind, I was just like, I can't say no. Like to that point, I hadn't said no to any gig because I wasn't really getting a lot of people asking me.
Yeah.
So this guy asked me and I was like, oh man, I got my own format. I got my own 20, 30 minute slot. Fine, I'll do it. I don't care. I want this. And day of the show comes up. Now, this is back when I was working at Miami-Dade College as a math tutor. Okay. So I would tutor these types of kids that didn't know algebra. I would just try to help them get by. And I got to, so whatever. I pull up. I don't think it's a big deal. I'm not thinking about that. And I get up to the venue, and the whole block is full of kids. They're all hanging out. Some of them are drinking. Some of them are smoking. The rest are just hanging out, being nice. Not, generally nice vibe. And as I walk in, I see like 4 girls that I tutor, and they go, what are you doing here? They acted like I was an old man. I was like, nothing. I didn't want to tell them that I was going to be on the show. I was so embarrassed. And they were like, oh, wait, you're the comedian. I didn't know you did comedy. I was like, fuck, this is already off to a bad start. So I'm like, yeah, well, I'm going to go check in. Let me go check inside.
Oh, no.
And I opened the door to the warehouse, and the entire thing is like a thick cloud of smoke. And they're playing, it's dark, they have lasers, and it's a bunch of sweaty teenagers just dancing to hardcore trap music. Okay. And I'm like, this is a good vibe.
Oh, no.
And so here's what happens. I meet the guy up. He goes, hey, we're going to start the show pretty soon. I'll let you know when you're up. You're after the movie premiere. I go, movie? And he goes, yeah. So I'm sitting there with a little cup of water. I had like some tacos and tattoos thing I'm eating. And they do this. This is the format. They have 2 SoundCloud rappers go at the up front. And they sang over their songs, but the song already had their voice in it.
Yes.
So they're just kind of lyricizing over their own song, and they don't even know their own lyrics. It's crazy.
Oh, no.
But they're dressed cool, and their friends are in front, and they're all like bobbing their heads and like, yeah, fuck yeah. It gets really aggressive. So they do 2 of those guys, and then they turn down the lights more somehow, and they drop a projector screen, and they go, now we're going to show a movie that these 2 girls made, these 2 independent filmmakers. And they made a movie where they basically interviewed a homeless guy in Miami-Dade who had, had this whole crazy story about losing his family, drugs. Beautiful short film, but it was not good for the situation. And you watch it and you're like, this is crazy. And then they invite the 2 girls up to say a few words. The girls talk about making the movie, and they keep talking until they both break down into tears. They both start crying. Half the crowd comes up and they group huddle in a love huddle, and they hold these girls. They get a really proud round of applause.
Yeah. And
then the guy goes, now we have comedy.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh no, this is a nightmare.
Yes.
I just even thinking about it is making me nervous. I I walk up and I'm like, I don't have even 2 minutes right now in front of this. I have to do 20. I have to do 30. What am I going to do? And I come up and immediately I was kind of like, hey, this is weird for me. I was trying to address it, but they were like, why are you here?
Right.
Why did you shove yourself into the show? And I was like, in my mind, I was like already defensive. I was like, no, I don't want to do this.
Right.
So I'm doing my material. It's bombing horribly. They all hate my life. They all hate me. And I'm looking at people and I'm like, hey, right? And people, like one guy's laughing. And at least I had him. I fixated on that guy. And everyone else is like, this guy's a douche. And then at one point I'm setting up a bit that I was doing at the time where, it's talking about how men have an opportunity to get out of this dumb situation, whatever I'm talking about, and women don't because of their genitalia. So it was a dumb joke, but at one point, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing the bit, yada, 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 yada. No one's listening. Yada, 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 yada. No one's listening. And then my tag is, you see, men can do that. Women can't do that. And as I said that, one girl, like snap reaction, it was millisecond reaction. She yells out from the back. She goes, women can do anything. They all get on their feet, look at her and start clapping. She gets a standing ovation, and they're all looking at me clapping like, you're a piece of shit. Right. And I was like, you're not even listening to my bit.
Yes.
And I got so mad.
My gosh.
I did like one more minute after that. I stretched. I said, okay, that's my set. Thanks, guys. And I put it in the mic, and I ran out. And as I ran out, I look at the girls that I was tutoring, and they're looking at me like, I can't believe you. And I was like, fuck you. Like,
that's crazy.
Literally, like 2 weeks later, I had to quit that job. I couldn't do it.
Oh my gosh.
I had to move on. I was like, that put a fire on my ass to go find a different job because
that is so nuts, man.
That's my gig.
That reminds me
and the whole thing took like an hour and a half to do. It took 2 hours of pain.
Oh my gosh. It just reminds me, because I have been in similar situations, and thankfully not that bad, but I have been in situations.
Really? You didn't have a Rosa Parks moment where everyone was looking at you like you're the Gestapo? For just doing your bit?
No. Thankfully, no. But
I was amazed because, like, how could you take it so out of context? I'm doing a bit right now that's actually supporting women.
Yes.
My bit was supporting women. It was saying that you guys should have this thing to be able to do it. But they were just like, he's being a dick. They weren't listening.
Right.
They just assumed, a comedian. He's one of these edgy comedian guys.
Right.
Like,
That's
I guess I am. My material sucked. I didn't deserve to do well, but I didn't deserve that. In my mind, I was like, this is rough. And for like the first 5 minutes of my set, I turn around and I realize the projector screen is still down, and they just have that movie frozen on the last scene, which is the fucking homeless guy like wasting away.
Oh,
I'm like,
no.
this is just, what is this?
So
that's the universe being funny.
See, what this reminds me of is the times, maybe like less than a handful of times, where I've performed at churches, and
oh god,
these churches will be like, oh, we have the entertainment, and like, you're the entertainment or whatever. Thankfully, this was before I started comedy. This was when I was like in bands and things like that. So even then, it's not even remotely as bad as what you went through. But it is something that I understand, because every church would be like, okay, so we're going to have a video, and then right after the video, you guys are going to go on, you guys are going to sing some songs. It's going to be great. And they will play this video, and it's a 7-minute video about sex trafficking. And then they're like, all right, guys, now let's bring out the idea of anything fun at all. Mike Valdes and his stupid band. And I'm like,
and his stupid, offensive band of child traffickers, for sure.
And so I definitely understand where you're coming from.
You know what
but
I mean?
thankfully, I've never been through something that bad, so I commend you.
It's crazy. I guess it works on TV because, you can put the ASPCA puppy commercial in between anything.
Yes.
But it's because people have already learned how to tune that out.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
At the venue, you're like, oh, well, this is part of the show. I better listen. I better get depressed. Okay, that was good. What's next? A charity auction, I hope. No. This guy talking about penises for
oh my
minutes.
Gosh, man. So I kind of want to go to the other side of the spectrum. Tell me about a really great time that you had on stage.
Well, really great times are relative now.
Yeah, I know.
Now
it is
I feel
comedy.
like I used to weigh bombing so badly. Every time I would bomb, I would get depressed for like 2 days, and I'd be like, you suck, you worthless piece of garbage, you're never gonna make it. And then I learned to kind of slowly stop caring. Which is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to just be like, I'm doing my thing. Mm-hmm. But I think at that process, I became less sensitive to doing well too.
Yeah.
So sometimes I would do really well, and I would just be like, yeah, whatever. Okay. because I was waiting to be depressed. Because I was always like, oh wait, when I bomb, I'm going to be sad. But if I do well, whatever. I do
that's
really
definitely not healthy.
I've always just bullied myself like that. So, but one really good time I had was actually my first ever paid spot.
Okay.
At Artistic Vibes. I got in on the Laugh Attack show they used to do, and I was super nervous. I've never been so nervous for something. And I was just hoping it went okay. And I went up, and I did good, and I got off, and she was like, good job. And she hands me an envelope with whatever, their business model was weird back then, but she handed me a little envelope, and I was like, okay. And I just kind of sat outside, and I looked up, and I was like, damn, that was like a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah.
And then since then, it's like if I do really well, I'm like, yeah, that bit works. It's awesome. But I try not to get too ahead of myself because then otherwise, like, I don't want to get complacent,
Do you at least
I have a hard time feeling good.
Do you at least get proud of yourself? Do you at least pat yourself on the back when something new works on stage?
Oh yeah,
there's no better feeling, dude.
I feel super great.
It's a really good feeling,
and it's always good to have a fellow comedian come up to you and be like, "That's awesome."
Yes.
I try to do that if I'm hosting. I see a lot of different acts. If I see someone do really well, I'll be like, "That's dope. I like the timing on that or whatever." And I like hearing that too.
Of course, man.
It's the best thing you can hear.
Look,
even if
dude,
an audience member is like, "You were great," having a comedian come up to you and be like, "That was awesome."
Yeah.
For me, feels better.
Well, because we see it all.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there's very few, if any at all, when they tell you something positive that they mean it.
Oh.
Like for me, for example, like if I come up to you and I tell you something positive, which most of the time I just like telling people positive things, but it doesn't make it any less true.
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell you if I didn't feel
right.
that.
Instead of the whole like, good set, man.
Right.
Good set, bro. You hung in there.
Yeah.
Good set, man. You should quit in 20 seconds.
Dude, the worst. You know what the worst thing is? When you do really well and then somebody that didn't do well is like behind the, like in the green room or whatever, and they're just like, yeah, that crowd's pretty cool, huh? It's
no, bitch, I'm pretty cool.
It's like, no, dude, that was me. Like,
yeah, well.
or like, wow, like Chris D'Elia says this, and he said this on a podcast, and no one's ever said this to me, but I feel it, where he's just like, where someone will say, huh, they all came to see you, huh? Like, and you're like, God, like,
rude.
Why? First of all, like, I'm of the camp that there's plenty of success to go around.
Don't eat up my victory just to make your thing
exactly
feel worse.
I feel like that's one of the great things about comedy is that every person is very few and far between in style. Like everybody has their own voice. Everybody's completely different. That's what makes it awesome. That's what makes comedy so great. And somebody's success doesn't mean that I'm not going to get my own or whatever the case. Like, just keep your eyes on your own paper.
People get in their heads right before they're about to go up or whatever.
Right.
So one great thing that happened talking about that whole comment this last Thursday, had a good set. Had what you were talking about. I had a brand new bit. I opened with it. The parameters in the room were perfect for me to go up, and I just had a really good set from the beginning.
Yes.
And once I get off stage, I'm not looking, and I get like tackled. And I'm like, what happened? I look around, it's Alex Tarno. He's like hugging me. He's like, you did awesome, buddy. And I was like, oh, Tarno. And it's such a cute little moment. I was like, stop it. You motherfucker, man. I love you.
That's great, dude. Those are moments
he bear hugged me, and I was like, I normally wouldn't be okay with this. But
those moments are so great, and they're so necessary, man. I love it. Those are great things. So you're doing a bunch of different shows. We were talking about Roast Battle. You're one of the judges or the haters, as they call it.
Well, some of the battles, I think sometimes Mateo invites me to be a judge for it. Yeah. Whatever. But I do it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Haven't lost. Okay.
Really? That's
the Roast
great.
Battle champ. They got to buy me a belt. I keep telling them to buy me a belt.
That's so good.
And they don't do it.
I
feel
love
like that'd
it.
be funny to just walk out like all like WWF, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Baby.
That's so good. Yeah. And
so
now you're hosting at Red Bar?
Yeah, I host two rooms. I host Red Bar and Taurus.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like this has been an episode.
So fun, Mikey. Thank you so much.
This has been an episode, man. I really appreciate you coming on here. I've been wanting to have you on for a long time. There's a very short list of people that I definitely had to talk to, and you're on that list. So where can people find you and go to any of your shows?
They can find me at Publix buying Oreos. I ate this entire fucking bowl during the interview.
Well, this box is for you.
No, please.
Yeah,
eat it.
No, absolutely. I don't need it.
You need to be collecting cereal.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
It's worth it. That's my other favorite thing. Like, you get paid in weird ways doing comedy sometimes.
Oh my gosh, yes. Absolutely.
So,
it's the only business. It's the only business where you get paid in hot wings. But yeah. So where can people find you online? Where's your social
my handle
media?
for everything's the same. It's my name. It's ORIELOL. So like
Nice.
the end is like LOL. So
Oriel
that's me
LOL.
at ORIELOL. It's kind of uncomfortable to say. I got to work on that. You got to get like a cool stage name.
I
like
always thought it was
Rabbity Cats or like something,
Rabbity Cats.
something really like Badoo Badoo.
I always say like Oriel. Isn't that how it is?
ORIELOL. Yeah, that's what I go for. But
yeah, that's how I always said it.
So you can find me on that on Instagram. That's where I mainly post. And I do a lot of regular shows. If you guys, comedians, if you're listening to this, if you made it this far, love you. Always, I'm sure we know each other. Reach out. It'd be great to have you on at Red Bar or Taurus. People come through. Taurus is doing a lot of very special shows now, theme shows.
Yeah.
The room's improving a lot. So big fan of that. And yeah. You know?
That's awesome, man. Well, for me, you can find me on Instagram at Mike Valdes, on Twitter at I am Mike Valdes, and you can go to whoismikevaldes.com to find out the answer to that question.
Perfect.
And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe, tell your friends to listen so we can grow this family. Bye, besties.